Okay, so we want to graph y equals -2 cosine of 3x plus 1. So there's a lot of things that are going on here. There's no phase shift. We will go over phase shift on Tuesday. But a couple things to really know. I'm going to write this in different colors. So this 3x, the first thing that this tells me is that there's going to be a period change. Okay, so this is no longer going to be from 0 to 2 pi. So that's what I see. That's the first thing I see. Now, this tells me that now the amplitude is now going to change. So here, amplitude is changed. Okay, so the amplitude is no longer going to be 1, it's now going to be 2. This negative sign means that my graph is going to flip. Okay, so that's something that I also see. And then finally, I see that you have a +1. This +1 is telling me that I am going to shift it up 1 unit. Okay, so there's a lot of things that are going on. So to start off, I think what you should really know is, what does a cosine curve look like? Okay, so a cosine curve looks like the following. So I'm going to start at 0. I'm going to end at 2 pi. Okay, this is going to be pi over 2. This is going to be pi, and this is going to be 3 pi over 2. Okay, so I know that the cosine curve always starts at 1 in terms of the y values, and then it continues on with this pattern. So here is one cycle of the cosine curve, and obviously it continues on. Okay, so I just want to graph one cycle. So the first thing to know is that there is a period change. We know that in the very beginning, this cosine curve is from 0 to 2 pi. So it starts here, all right, and it ends here. So my x values are all going to be from 0 to 2 pi. However, there is a period change, and that's where this 3 comes in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in that 3 in there. So now this is going to be from 0 to 2 pi, but in here, this is the thing that's being affected. So this is going to be the 3x. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to solve for the x to see where the new period is. So I'm going to divide this by 3. So I'm going to have 0 is less than or equal to x less than or equal to 2 pi over 3. Okay. Alternatively, what you could have done 2 pi over b. And notice that the b value is just 3. And you could have said that the period is going to end at 2 pi over 3. So that's something else that you could have done. Okay. So let's fix that first. So I'm going to color that in blue. So I'm going to draw that in blue to denote that that's the period change. So my period is now going to be from 0 all the way to 2 pi over 3. Now, a couple things that I need to do here. I need to change my increments. So my increments are no longer going to be pi over 2 pi, 3 pi over 2. I have to find the midpoints. Okay, so I'm going to add these two numbers, okay, and divide it by 2. So I'm going to take 2 pi over 3 plus 0, and I'm going to divide this by 2. What I'm going to get is just 2 pi over 3 divided by 2. This is going to give me 2 pi over 6, which in turn gives me pi over 3. Okay, so this is going to give me pi over 3. Okay, so that's the middle point. Okay, now we need to find the other midpoints. This one's going to be from 0 to pi over 3. Okay, so let's find that midpoint. Let's find what this one is going to be. So this is going to be 0 plus pi over 3 divided by 2. This is going to give me pi over 3 divided by 2, which gives me pi over 6. So this is going to be pi over 6. Okay, now the last one is that I'm going to go add these two numbers together to figure out what this one is. Okay, so this is going to be pi over 3 plus 2 pi over 3 divided by 2. This is going to give me 3 pi over 3 divided by 2. This is going to give me 3 pi over 6, which is going to give me pi over 2. Okay, I could have also canceled out the 3's and you'll still get pi over 2. Okay, so this is going to be pi over 2. Okay, so there are my new increments. Now, right now, I'm just drawing the period change. It's going to be from 1 to 1. Nothing has changed other than just the period. Okay, so now it's a little faster. Okay, so that's what that looks like. Okay, so that's the blue one. Now, the next thing, I'm going to do the red part. Okay, the red part is now the amplitude. So I'm going to do one step at a time. You can do multiple steps if you want. Okay, so now let me graph my red one. Okay, so now what this is going to do is going to be multiply all of my y values by 2. So this is no longer at 1. This is now going to be at 2. So I'm going to have 2 here. So this was 1 before. Okay, and now it's going to be at 2. Okay, so now my increments are going to stay the same. Pi over 6, pi over 3, pi over 2, 2 pi over 3. So now this is going to be at 2, 0. This is going to be minus 2, 0, 2. So now everything changed. No, nothing changed. The only thing that really changed is just the amplitude. So I just stretched the graph. Okay. Now the next thing is the purple thing. The purple, what it's doing is I am going to flip the graph. Okay. So now I'm going to flip everything. So now before it was at a 2. So let me change this. Let me write all my x values. Pi over 3, pi over 2, and then 2 pi over 3. Okay, so now, right now, my graph is at 2. I'm going to flip it. The opposite of 2 is going to be negative 2. Okay, so now this one is now going to be down here. Now here, this one's at 0. Okay, that's not going to change. It's going to stay the same. Right now, this is negative 2. I'm going to switch that. That's now going to be a 2. The 0 is not going to change. And then the last one, this 2 is now going to change into a negative 2. Okay, so this is what I did here is I just flipped the graph over. Okay, I just flipped it. Okay. Okay, so now we're almost done because all we got to do now is just move the graph 1 unit up. Okay, so this is going to be my last graph. Let me write it like this. Okay, so this is going to be pi over 6, pi over 3, pi over 2, and then 2 pi over 3. Okay, so this is going to be, I'm going to write 1, 2, 3, because I know that there's going to be some sort of shifting, and I'm going to make this minus 1, minus 2, and minus 1. Okay, so let's look at the purple graph. Right now, this one is at negative 2. I'm going to move up 1, so now that one's going to be a minus 1. This one is going to be at 0. I'm going to move it up 1. That one's going to be at 1. This one right now is at 2. Okay, so I'm going to move up, so now I'm going to be at 3. This one's at 0. I'm going to move it up. I'm going to be at 1. And the last one, I'm at minus 2. I'm going to move it up, and I'm going to be at 1. So what I end up getting is something that looks like this. Okay. And this is my final answer. Okay, so that's my answer. Okay. And that's just all there is to it. So you can do one step at a time if you'd like, just like what I did. Or you can go ahead and just do a lot of things together. The only thing is that you have to be very careful, okay, with your arithmetic. So later on, next week, we're going to do a little bit more complicated problems. So when there actually not only is there a period change, but also there's a shift in the graph, okay?